Awesome. Well, we will get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I love seeing the chat already starting. Greetings from Southern California. We're so excited to have folks online for one of our favorite things that's quickly becoming a tradition for C plus V. Provost Mary Clark was able to join us for our first one of our community leadership conversations, and this is to get to know leaders, and particularly new leaders on campus, and get to know a little bit about what makes them them. So we're really excited today to be joined by Dean Michelle Knight-Manuel and Dean Tori Wilson. And Provost Mary Clark will be moderating the conversation today, but I do want to kick us off with letting folks know that we do have closed captioning available. If you select on the bottom right, there are caption options. So please do select that. And if you need anything else from us, we are available on the chat. And then I do also want to start us off with a land acknowledgement. So I do want to take a moment in the spirit of healing and peace to acknowledge and honor the indigenous peoples of the land upon which the University of Denver stands, the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute tribes. Like the history of so many institutions in the American West, ours is complex and sometimes painful. In recognition of this fact and to underscore our commitment to inclusion and equity here at DU, we commit to listen to and affirm the stories of all in our community. We do invite you to visit the DU Native American and Indigenous Initiatives website to learn more about the different initiatives that are going on, and we'll drop that link in the chat. And with that, I will hand it over to Provost Mary Clark to kick off our conversation.
Thank you, Chase, and thank you to all who have joined us this afternoon. We're so delighted to have you with us. I have the particular pleasure this afternoon of hosting a conversation between our two new deans, Dr. Tori Wilson, who is Dean of the Graduate School of Professional Psychology, who's to my left, and Dean Michelle Knight-Manuel of the Mortgage College of Education, Dr. Knight-Manuel, who has joined us as of this summer. So I am thrilled to be in conversation with the both of you, and it harkens me back to when I first started at DU and I was in a similar facilitated conversation. And the first question I was asked, and that I'll put to you all, is how is it going so far? How has your time been at DU? What are some of the highlights, if you will? Oh, I've stunned them already. All right, whoever is first to the mic, please go ahead.
Who's first to the mic?
I think that's you now. Yes.
That was the conversation before we came on, who would be queued up. This is week 10, both at the university as well as being in Denver. I arrived after a brief week or so, August 26th, and hit the ground running, and no regrets. Excited, learning much. Learn less about Denver, but learn more about the university. Had a few visitors, family has come to visit, and they seem to be more excited about me being here perhaps than I sometimes display and convey to them. So.
What are they excited about? They like the environs, they like the food.
My family, and I think we get to this later, I'm from New Orleans, so most of my family is in New Orleans. They've deluded themselves into believing that they're going to ski, and it's not going to happen.
Very good. How about you, Michelle? Is your family hankering to go skiing?
I don't know about skiing, but they are hankering to come to visit. I've had family come to visit already as well from San Diego, so that has been quite nice. Yeah.
Very good. And what has your major takeaway been so far of your time at DU and in Denver broadly?
Well, first, I do want to take a step back and just say thank you for the invitation today to be able to share perspectives with my colleague here, Dean Wilson. And then also, I want to say I am honored to be the Dean of the Mortgage College of Education. And today I did ask them, since I'm coming from the semester system, when they hear the quarter system, what comes to mind? And they started out with like a fast sprint, a turkey trot, like going quite fast, intense. And so I said, well, this is good to hear these perspectives on what the quarter really does mean to them at this point in time. So I've enjoyed that. Also, I've enjoyed just just taking the time to listen and learn from many of them. And I have to say, one of the overarching themes in listening to the faculty and staff has been this idea that what is important to mortgage are the people. And at first, when I heard it, I was like, check, yeah, okay. And then I heard it again, check, yeah, okay, the people. But I really do have to say, over this quarter, I have really come to deeply appreciate the people who are here at Mortgage.
Very much so. Very much so. We
I
are
may echo,
of care.
the
Tori.
quarter system is, this is my first foray into the quarter system as well. So it is, I met with a group of the first year students in one of my programs this morning, and they look like they have been hit with a stick. So they're adjusting to a quarter system as well.
And I'll offer that I'm teaching this fall, and I had my students submit their draft papers last night, and I had pledged to read and grade them all by tomorrow morning. So you know what I'll be up to this evening. Let's see, would love to pivot now to learning more about what makes you, you. And Michelle, I think I'm going to turn to you first, since Tori graciously answered the first question first. So what makes you, you?
Surprisingly, I found that to be a difficult question. And I think I found it difficult because I think there are a lot of people on this campus who really support equity and social justice and inclusion and diversity. And there are people who have, really have a staunch, undergirding around principles of access and equity. And so I said, okay, so what really makes me different? And I have to say, I had to go back to my roots. And in going back to my roots, I really have to, give honor to my mom and my dad. They, in the late 1950s, interracial couple that got married when in many states it was illegal to be married. And I have just witnessed the courage of my mom and dad and the courage of our family as we've moved forward throughout the years. And I think that, growing up with two distinct cultures, I didn't realize what an advantage it was to really understand that people bring multiple perspectives to the table. And how do you engage across those differences at an early age? And then, continuing, as Dean here, to engage differences among all of us and what that means. And so I think certainly focusing in on that. And then I do have to say, like, my mother absolutely believes in me. From a young child, she has always, shared like, nope, you can do this, you can do this. When I didn't think I could go to Canada for a trip, to study for a month, French-speaking Canada, she's like, you're going to be chosen, don't worry, and I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not. There's so many great people. And then, they were only choosing 4 people out of all the teachers in Oakland to go to Russia for this exchange trip. And I was like, Mom, only 4 people. You're going to be one of the 4. Don't worry, And so there's always this, and even becoming dean, my mom was like, nope. You got this, right? And so I have to say that undergirding belief to, opportunities and to engage in those opportunities really undergirds who I am in terms of wanting to give supports and structures and policies and practice that really support equitable opportunities, and to really have that understanding that, I'm sharing with our students that, I really do believe in you and what you want, and how do we make that happen? How do we prepare you to be the best professionals going out there? And what does that look like?
Very, very helpful. Thank you. Very affirming. Thank you. All right, Tori, over to you. What makes you, you?
Well, the snarky, sarcastic part of me says, ask my daughters, they tell you a different story. I think similar to Michelle, I am the culmination of a family and a community that just was incredible. I am 7 of 8 kids, and at no point in that household did I feel invisible. Incredible parents who probably never used the term social justice, but operated from and lived lives that basically was that. And even though I was oftentimes the nudge or rebel against some of that which was family, and perhaps that was my way of making my mark among such a raucous crew, there was always a part of that love and that support that seeped in. And I think many of us come to realize that there are parts of our parents and our communities that seeped in despite ourselves. I I had twin brothers, and I lost one of my twin brothers this past October, and my siblings didn't feel like they could speak, and that was tough. And I had to give some thought to this notion of what's my place and how do I speak for the family. And it came to me that I was similar to what Michelle has talked about. I wasn't from a perfect family, but I was from a family that loved me, encouraged me perfectly. And that was, they also put me in positions and in places where there were other folks who always encouraged me. I've had incredible mentorship. I grew up in a community where there was perpetual, yeah, you can do that, similar to what Michelle talked about. Never doubt. The only doubt was when my mother didn't want me to leave New Orleans and wouldn't believe that I was leaving until 2 weeks before I moved to New York. But just a community that was the stereotypical, the village that just was there and gave you access to and exposure to an understanding that you were a part of something more important.
Very, very helpful, and very helpful to hear from you both, and what a model for our students and for our community members. I'm going to turn now to something potentially a little lighter, and that is to ask you what is on your nightstand. And when I was asked that question, when I was first here at DU, I said, oh gosh, you really don't want to know. It's a teetering mess of books that occasionally fall over and shock my cats. But at any rate, let's see, I'm going to start with you, Tori. What is on your nightstand? This is sort of a lightning round of questions. I'm going to ask you about your nightstand, your playlist, and then one more.
I was encouraged and then given a book by a significant other, Viola Davis's autobiography, Finding Me. And I'm not a big reader of celebrity books, but got through that first chapter and it was meaningful. So that's what I'm reading currently. Great.
Michelle.
So I had to laugh at this question because actually we are still settling in and we don't have any nightstands. So I thought like, but what I find myself attracted to reading now is much lighter fare. And so I would have to say someone turned me on to the Denver magazine, the 5820, and they had this issue on, road trips that you should be taking in the state of Colorado. And they have such beautiful pictures of areas of Colorado that I think my husband and I would like to travel to one day. Yeah.
Fabulous. Good. I'll see you out on the road. Okay, Michelle, I'll start with you with this one. What's on your playlist?
So what's on my playlist is, so for inspiration is CeCe Winans. And I have to say that you're not going to believe this, Mary, but after the long day last Wednesday and we had that alumni event, there was CeCe Winans who was singing at a church in Aurora.
Oh my goodness.
So, yes, so my husband said, are you still up for it? And I was like, CeCe Winans is like, she goes way back to my college days. And I was like, so we went, and it was great to see such a multi-ethnic group out. And so she's for my inspiration, but if I have to be on my bicycle, it's Bruno Mars.
Aha. Well done. I assume this is an exercise bike.
Absolutely.
Right, what's on your playlist?
Hey, New Orleans is a musical city, so it's okay. For the younger folks, I still have an iPod, number one. All right.
Oh.
I have an iPod Touch with 5,000 songs on it.
Oh my goodness.
But so it varies and it depends. I oftentimes wake up with a song in my head and then I have to play it. So more recently, there's this guy out of Great Britain, J.P. Cooper, who did a remake of, what's her name, Eilish's song. I just blanked on the title, but I love this song and his rendition, but almost anything. Miles has been playing on almost continuous rotation. John Coltrane, So it varies. It depends on the morning's mood. And sometimes I have to admit, it might be Public Enemy. So
Now, are either of you musicians yourselves?
I played drums until I went to undergrad.
Aha. Your parents were patient. Let's see, what did you miss during COVID? And here I'm going to start with Tori. What did you miss during COVID that you're glad to have back now, whether it's travel or friends or restaurants or what have you?
It would be travel. Not being able to go and see and experience other places in the world. That was the biggest, toughest part. I would still see my daughters and I got to see my family in distance and mask, but drove down to New Orleans during the middle of it and sat outside with them because the weather's such that you can. But it was being able to get away and go places and just experience places like Napa. I love to go to Napa. So.
Very good. Michelle.
So I have to say, for me, it was living in New York, not having the opportunity to really see family who lives in California, good friends who live in Austin, New Mexico. So for me, it was having that opportunity once again to be back in person with people.
Very much so. Very much
Yeah.
so. So now I'm going to pivot again, and this is a question about leadership. You both are in significant roles of leadership here at DU, and you both were in your prior institutions as well. What models of leadership do you draw on? Is there someone or someones in your mind as you're making difficult decisions or as you may be giving presentations, speeches, otherwise? Michelle, I'm going to start with you first.
Okay. So when I think of a person, I think of someone who's been a mentor since 1997. I've watched him in his career move from an assistant professor to a dean, to a provost, to a president. And in having the opportunity to be mentored by him and to be in different group settings with him, really, I take away this just being personable and human with people, how important that is, and to recognize them as people, no matter what roles we all have, you know, to just really engage and respect people as they come to the table. I think what I also appreciate about him is he knows to get the right stakeholders to the table. And I've learned how important that is to make sure that you have those community stakeholders at the table, as well as the people from the academy, as well as people from the business sector, and how to make that happen as a leader is so crucial and important to moving and advancing ideas. I think the other thing that I have learned from him is like being very action oriented. So, you know, in academia, we love to talk. But we need to get things done. And so to really see how he has moved forward agendas and being very action oriented, but also staying very personable, because in the middle, you know, I can see projects are going forward, but he's texting people during the week or, you know, to say like, how's the project moving forward? Is there anything I can do? And so just being very supportive as you move to those actions as a leader.
Very helpful. Very helpful. Tori, what about you?
Well, it's amazing that I think there's so many parts of Michelle in my lives that mirror each other. I was a chemistry major in undergrad. My junior year, the then chair at Xavier University down in New Orleans, HBCU, saw how miserable I was and suggested I take a psychology course. I railed against it and said, nah, Black folks don't do psychology. And he convinced me to take, of all things, a psychology of women's class. And it changed the trajectory of my life. He too went from being chair of the psych department, of course, started off as a professor, dean at another university, and retired just a couple of years ago as president of one of the North Carolina system schools, and has remained close and sort of a mentor that I've connected with and drawn upon. But I've also been fortunate enough to have several mentors in the profession who have guided me. And I think the most similar to what, again, Michelle said, action-oriented, the ability to listen and hear, and then gain some understanding from the information and data that has been gathered, but then moving things forward and not getting locked and stuck in process. Particularly as a psychologist, we love to process and spin around, but how do you move the process forward? And how are you intentional about that? And then my prior provost, who taught me to be diplomatic, which had not always been a strong suit of my leadership approach. So I continue to gain from those lessons.
Well, with that in mind, one of the questions we were prepped with was, what have you enjoyed most about leading here at DU? So it may be consistent with prior institutions, it may be different from prior institutions, but what about leading at DU have you enjoyed most? And I'm going to follow on with you, Tori, and then over to you, Michelle.
I think so far the opportunity to utilize all of the skills and knowledge that I bring to the table, and that I think my input, even though I've been in the observation phase mostly and just gathering, it has been, I believe my presence, my understanding, and my knowledge is valued in helping to come up with solutions and move processes forward. And that's incredibly valuable because oftentimes that's not the case.
Very helpful. Michelle, what would you say in terms of what you have enjoyed most about leading at DU so far?
I'll say a couple of things. First, I do have to say, like, I have a great leadership team here. I really appreciate them challenging ideas, putting forth ideas, helping us to think through some of the hard issues that we're facing. So I'm greatly appreciative of the leadership team that is here, working collaboratively together. You know, I also have to say, you know, Tori will make you laugh with some of his ways of thinking about things, but he is a great colleague. And I want to say that about my dean colleagues, that I really appreciate our collegiality. I appreciate the support we're having for one another. You know, that means a lot as we lead. And, you know, certainly, you know, Mary, I want to say how much I appreciate the way you are leading in terms of equity and inclusion and justice, and that's important for me as a leader, to enjoy being in a space where that is valued.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see, last question for you before I open it to the floor, and a couple of questions have already been coming in. Here, I'm going to start with you, Michelle.
Mhm.
What are you most hopeful for the DU community?
I think one of the things I'm most hopeful for is that I am learning there are brilliant scholars here, and I feel like we need to amplify them more. And I am hopeful that, you know, as we amplify the brilliant work that is being done here, people will see more and more, you know, that we do have the answers to some of these crucial questions that are plaguing our society, and certainly mental health and certainly educational disparities. You know, I have great hope around that. I also want to say, working with the advancement team, I have lots of hope around how they're trying to move our different colleges forward, and, you know, having the conversations that we're having around funding and philanthropy. You know, some people came from a philanthropy background. You know, I asked that question at the retreat. I said, raise your hand if you knew philanthropy as a child. And out of the whole room, there were 5 people that raised their hand, you know, 5. And I said, this is something that is important for us to understand as a community. And so, you know, I am delighted by the conversations that we have, and hopeful about our big ideas, where we can go forward, and how we distinguish ourselves further.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Tori, I would love to hear, what are your greatest hopes for the DU community?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes.
I think we start with some of the things I walked into. How do we truly actualize an inclusive community where the experiences of diversity aren't just an add-on, but it's something that is integrated in how we function and how we think and do. And that also involves, how do we expand that diversity? I don't think it's a secret to many, and it's a surprise when I think I arrived here, that there's not a tremendous diversity on the campus. And that is something that's a challenge, but I think that is an opportunity to really create the kind of learning environment that hopefully we all aspire to. I think the other piece would be, and this isn't unique to DU, but I think it speaks to a lot of higher education. We have a difficult time truly dismantling the siloed way in which we operate. And I see a tremendous opportunity for the kind of interprofessional and interdisciplinary study and growth and application that, again, big ideas. There were a lot of big ideas that included that. I think there's wonderful opportunity to build that up and really be a model of what that looks like.
Very helpful. And in a related fashion, I have our first question from the audience that I wanted to pose to you, and I'll let you choose between yourselves who responds first. But it comes from an alum of color who says that their time at DU did not feel inclusive or equitable, and they wound up feeling a bit ambivalent about DU. So they go on to ask, do you have any advice or encouragement for those of us who feel grateful for the education we received, but may also feel harmed by our experience at the institution? So I'd love any thoughts you might have for this alum who is writing.
I can take it first, Michelle. It's
Okay, go for it.
Unique, but not unique. Unique in the sense that my undergraduate experience was at a historically Black university. And it was an incredible experience. I won't even deny it. Not all perfect, but there was an insulation from a lot of the kinds of experiences that are common for minority students who attend predominantly white institutions. I did my doctoral studies at a university that mirrors DU, Loyola in Chicago, and went in with a set of expectations, even as an adult student, that were in many ways difficult to adjust to. And then it became a focus on what am I here for? What is my education about? And if the support in the community doesn't exist at the institution, I have that support outside. Now, in hindsight, I've been able to make peace with some of that, but I've also been able to engage my program and my faculty from there in what some of those experiences were. And understanding that the process of change requires consistent and intentional investment in making that change happen. That doesn't free folks from their responsibility in looking at that, but I have always been, perhaps again, that 7 of 8 kids, the one who was comfortable making noise about what was problematic. And the joke I tell, but it is the truth, is I often got smacked by my mother, not for what I said, but for the context in which I said it. So I say that in the sense that I think that it's important that we still express and we push and we let folks know that these are issues that are meaningful and they have to be addressed, and trust that hopefully someone is there to back us up.
Very helpful. Thank you. Michelle, I don't know if there's something you would add to that.
I would just add that I actually went to a PWI as an undergrad, and they were seeking diversity from the big cities. I come from a very small town in Williamsport in the middle of nowhere, but they were seeking diversity from New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, DC, and many of the students did not make it. Many of the students of color did not graduate when I graduated, and did not graduate at all. And I was always concerned by the fact that the university wanted us, but was not ready for us. And so when I went to graduate school, I went to my advisor and I said, I want to feel like I belong here. Like, I want to know, unlike my undergrad experience, that this school is here for me and I want to be a part of this school. And so when I think about what you're saying about, grateful for or thankful for, PWIs that may support us in some ways, but in other ways create great harm, is I appreciated what you said, Tori, about can you reconcile what has happened and still see hope? And so I think that is why, in terms of, great opportunities of why would I, people have asked me, why would you leave Columbia and come to University of Denver? And it is because of the great hope that we can make a difference here. And that by really focusing on inclusion in the policies and practices and structures that Tori was talking about, can we make a difference now for the DU students? And hopefully, as we reach out to alumni, to engage you back once again, to know that we do mean business and that we really do want to set up, an environment from when students first enter DU to when they exit in our alumni that really supports students of color, faculty of color, our alumni of color. And so I guess what I'm asking is to not lose hope and maybe to re-engage with us.
Very helpful. Thank you, Michelle. Tori, I have a question directly for you, and you may know the source of the question as I share it. It says, besides having a wonderful fundraiser, what have been the highlights you've experienced so far at GSPP? What has been most exciting about the work that you do?
Yeah, I think I know the person.
Yes.
I have actually met some incredible people. I have had some incredible conversations, and both, of course, internally and externally, because there is a part of this position that is very much external facing. I think that there is a willingness to listen and engage in ways that is reassuring beyond what I imagined. And I have enjoyed 99.9% of this experience.
Very helpful. Here's a question, Michelle, I'm going to put to you first, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts. The question is, if you weren't a dean, what career path might you have pursued? Well, we know you're not going to be professional musicians.
I'm not going to be a professional musician. I actually wanted to be a child psychologist.
Ah,
I did. And, unlike Tori, I took psychology classes and I did not agree with the textbooks. And so I pushed back and said, these are not the experiences of African Americans that I know, that I've lived with, that I've grown up around. This is only, at the time, I didn't know asset-based or deficit-based at all. I was just, fresh from my hometown of Pennsylvania. And I pushed back, and the professor basically told me I wasn't going to make it because, this was what the textbook said. These are the experiences you have as your culture. And that time I didn't have the skills to navigate and say you're wrong. I didn't have the skills, as an undergrad student to just understand that was wrong or how I could continue to push back. So I still do think about that fondly, about what it would be like to be a child psychologist. But on the other hand, I think being a dean is kind of great. So, yeah.
And indeed, you found a job where you are serving both purposes in many ways. Tori, what about you? If you weren't a dean, what might you have pursued?
Well, either sommelier or wine grower. Michelle's bobbing her head because she's heard this before. Yeah, the idea of I would be able to be a master wine taster or a master wine grower, that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. That would be pretty cool. All right, next question takes us back to DU. And the question is, how will you know when you've been successful in your work at DU? So Tori, I'll start with you on that.
I think there are multiple ways in which I could define success. Success within my unit is to create a culture that is truly inclusive and effective in doing what it is we say we do. I also think that I want to expand that because I do believe that we have been overly focused on waiting for people to get ill or develop problems. I think psychology has a much richer role in addressing the behavioral components of life. So expanding it to where we're truly integrated with a behavioral health system and a health system in general. And with that, but it starts with a culture that is far more inclusive and actively engaged in understanding what that means and not just talking about it. Because I think psychology has failed in many ways to do a better job.
Really a more affirmative framing is what you've offered. Michelle, what about you? How will you know, or what will success look like for you here at DU? The question is, how will you know when you've been successful?
Right.
How's
right,
that?
Right. I think that's a great question. I think, sometimes I just think it's day by day that you know that you impacted a faculty member or a staff member or a student. And I don't ever want to take those one-on-one interactions for granted, that we have a great impact when we are sitting down one-on-one with them for whatever reason. And so I cherish those opportunities. I also think in terms of being able to successfully support them in the work and what resources do they need. And so we were talking about that today, about to really, contribute to academic excellence further of themselves, of their units. What will that look like? And so as we begin to gather their thoughts, and we said it was just an opening discussion today, because we know people are really tired. So we just want to have an opening discussion of what kinds of supports do they need? Where do they want to go with their careers? What will that look like? And so we said we're going to delve further in the spring quarter about what that means. And then in terms of success, how can I, as a dean, how can I, amongst all of our deans and DU, really figure out the types of resources our faculty, staff, and students need to be the successful leaders that they want to be in their own fields, as well as, bringing new opportunities to our students. A lot of them want internships, apprenticeships. We talked about that today with the Commissioner of Behavioral Health. They're also interested in that. So I think success for me also will be determined by the new opportunities we can provide within our unit, but also across DU widely.
Very helpful. This next question is related, and I'm just going to read. It's been thoughtfully phrased. It says, both of you are stepping into spaces that are not always inclusive and with an important social justice vision that you each hold. What will you need from your faculty and your staff to create the climate that you aspire to create? I don't know who might wish to answer first.
There has to be a willingness to examine one's role in this. And I mean genuinely, not the superficial examination. And I challenge folks to truly have skin in the game. What is your commitment? Is it real? If I can use the example of the overuse of the Black hashtag during the 2020 upheaval, and folks, no one has skin in the game. So I think my hope is that people go beyond performative acts and actually engage in a way that is meaningful, that has an impact. In fact, I don't just hope it, it is my expectation. And I think building in accountability around that has to be a part of how we approach it.
Very helpful. Michelle, what are your thoughts here?
I think what has been extremely helpful for me in really advancing, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice here at Morgridge has been the commitment statement that they have on the website, where they have a statement that definitely says every decision, every move should be coming from a lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. So that has really helped me, even from the outstart with the leadership team, to really think through the retreat, our first retreat that we had in September, and really, putting that forth first. It's not at the end of the retreat, it's not in the middle of the retreat, but it is very much at the very beginning to say, the decisions we make in hiring, the decisions we make, as we move forward around staff hiring as well, around the curriculum, that we really need to lead with a diversity, equity, inclusion lens. It's not an add-on. So I appreciate that commitment statement is there. I think what for me is important for the faculty to understand is, like, I can lead from this perspective, but it will be greatly appreciated if faculty also lead from this perspective and take up, ways in which they put forth that they want to see diversity, equity, and inclusion put forth in ways that maybe I'm not thinking about because I just got here. So I'm really hoping that the faculty not only supports their commitment statement, but will act on that commitment statement.
Very helpful. And thank you both so much for your time. I've enjoyed our conversation very much. I hope you have as well. I appreciate all of your time and thought in joining us in conversation. Would love to know if there are any final thoughts that you'd like to offer. Is there something I haven't asked about that you want to make sure that you highlight? Really anything at all? There need not be, but I wanted to be sure to provide that opportunity.
I'm trying to give Michelle space to speak.
To go first? Okay, I appreciate that, Tori. I think I just want to end with gratitude. Gratitude for this opportunity, gratitude for the people who have supported me thus far. Gratitude for the DU leadership, which is engaging with some of the tough issues of the day. So I'm just thankful to be here, and I continue to look forward to working with people collaboratively to accomplish the goals that we have set before us.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. And Tori, I don't know if there's something that you'd like to conclude with, and then someone who I suspect I know who they are has posted a final question. But Tori, are there thoughts that you would want to be sure to offer?
The curmudgeon in me is always a reluctant participant, but I always take something from being a part of these conversations. So I too appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation and even the nudge to do so. I do thoroughly enjoy my colleagues and am looking forward to a continued engagement. I would only add to what was asked before. I don't know that I'll know what success is until after we've perhaps gotten there. And as with one of my old students apparently is on here, I didn't know what impact I had until I got a moment to step away and they shared the impact, because I'm not always looking at that. I'm just trying to get the job done.
Well, that's right. So last lightning round, and you all may know the source. Star Wars or Star Trek? Maybe we'll leave that as a rhetorical question. How's that? Over to you, Chase. I know you're going to highlight some upcoming programming, and I just want to thank Dean Knight-Manuel and Dean Wilson again for all of your time and thought. I have very much enjoyed the conversation, so thank you. Over to you, Chase.
Yes, I was very much looking forward to the answer of that last question. So you'll have to ponder it for our follow-up with the audience around Star Trek versus Star Wars.
I was suspecting.
I can't claim fan status of either very much, but I know it's a big question. There's a lot of layers to that one, but thank you both.
Star Trek Next Generation. Let's get it.
Ooh, there we go. Would I be the worst person if I say I love the new Star Wars movies, but I didn't get to see the old ones when they first came out? So I just got to see them last year, so I'm catching up. But thank you all so much for being here. This was truly such a fun conversation and just so fun to get to know you both. And we are excited that we have 2 more C+V events coming up this week. Tomorrow will be a community wellness pop-up hour in partnership with the Ritchie School of Engineering. So get out of your desks, get out of your spaces, come visit us over at the Engineering and Computer Science building. We will be serving Maria empanadas and beverages and having conversation, and you can learn about the innovation labs there and the different work they're doing. And then that will be from 11:30 to 1:30 tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we'll be hosting the Blockchain Symposium in partnership with so many amazing folks on campus here. That will be from 2:30 to 5. There will be an introductory talk Then there will be a moderated roundtable. Mary's flexing her moderating muscles this week. She'll be moderating that panel. And then we'll have 5 different breakout use sessions of how you can use blockchain in different ways. So arts, the energy grid, and student projects, supply chain, and law contracts. So all sorts of things going on there. So please do join us. And then we will have our community wellness hours wrapping up next week. So please do stop by Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesdays in the Commons from 12 to 2, Thursdays at Beans from 9 to 11 a.m. Get yourself some hot beverages and delicious food as we wrap up a quarter. And I agree, I came from the semester system and it feels like a sprint. So I can't believe we're already almost at the end of this, but thank you both so much. We truly appreciate it. We do encourage folks to check out our website, community.du.edu, to learn more about all that we're doing in partnership with so many on campus, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, and please go vote.